I spent a rather lovely half hour yesterday down a festive rabbit hole, having accidentally distracted myself reading about Christmas traditions in a book of Advent reflections. I expect that most of us have family recipes and routines and traditions at Christmas. Getting our tree from a Christmas tree farm together has become one of my families. And you can ask my daughters, if you ever meet them, about my annual festive plea for there to be actual and visual balance when it comes to decorating it. Reading this book, though, led me to remember the older traditions from my childhood that went back a bit further. My great-grandfather was a minister in the Church of Scotland, and his last parish was in Melrose in the Borders. When his daughter, my granny, and her family returned to live in the UK, they lived in Melrose too. And so for my mum and her 4 sisters, they grew up opposite the manse. Having a minister for your grandpa meant that Mum's Christmas involved church going, and other Christmas traditions were fitted around church life. Sometimes she found that rather annoying, but at other times it was lovely. A happy coexistence between the sacred and the secular, interdependent of one another. One thing I know my mum really loved as a child was finally being considered old enough to come along to the candlelit watch night service, which is the Church of Scotland's equivalent of our midnight mass. And even more exciting afterwards, the family would meet back at the manse where there would be green ginger and mince pies, your first of the year. And everyone got to find the smallest present under the tree, which was theirs to open early before going to bed. Although obviously not to sleep, you'd be way too excited after all of that. So guess what? When I was little, whenever we spent Christmas with my mum's parents and my great-grandfather who had moved in with them, this same tradition was kept. Watch night service, mince pies, green ginger, finding your littlest present and opening it up before going to bed, and then lying wide awake, far too excited to go to sleep afterwards. That was how Christmas always started, with a blend of the sacred and the secular, with a tantalizing sensation of being on the edge of something mysterious, deeply ancient, and yet utterly new, which compelled serious attention. And with the utterly gleeful excitement of being up really, really late with the midnight feast and ripping off wrapping paper and knowing that there were even more presents under the tree and an even bigger feast just a few short hours away, just as there are tonight. Christmas, engaging us in the home as easily as in the church, one celebration no less valid than the other. But isn't that exactly what's happening at Christmas when Jesus is born? Isn't that exactly the cosmic collision that John describes as he announces the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, lived among us, the Word, the wisdom and mystery of being God, the intangible, invincible I amness, takes on our way of living in a family, in a community, with a body like ours, with all its needs and delights and feelings and emotions and all its limitations and its frailties. The mystery and the mundanity, holy and homely, sacred and secular. A holy human who was wholly human. It's truly mind-blowing stuff when you think about it. God deciding to physically enter our space. You think it would have been hailed as the greatest event in history in the time it happened. And yet, John continues, he came to what was his own, and his people did not accept him. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, and yet the world did not know him. Despite an angelic invasion ripping through the heavens, despite an astrological portent lighting up the sky, despite the wild excitement of local shepherds running through the streets, despite a deputation of magi from foreign lands, and despite the fears of King Herod. Despite all of that, the birth of the Christ child was sidelined to a stable, shielded from the world by shame and straw, unknown, unrecognised, unwanted, no room for Emmanuel, for God with us. In the tinderbox atmosphere of a town overcrowded with tired, angry people, he was just one more inconvenient body taking up space, one more body to be counted and monetized, one more body that should not have been there if his mother had behaved herself. What a scandalous reception for the coming of God among us, the Creator, the great I Am. What a joyless response to a newborn baby. What heartbreaking things we do to love. Or maybe what certain of us do to love. For John does not leave us hopeless. Not everyone rejects and ignores the Christ child, and not everywhere. Some do receive him. Some will see this vulnerable baby full of love and light and respond out of the deepest of human instincts and offer love in return. Some received him then, and some receive him still. In my reading around Christmas traditions, I discovered something rather poignantly beautiful that is associated also with midnight services, but which comes instead from Mexico, not Melrose. A way by which some today capture and enact a loving reception for the Christ child in their church and in their homes, giving a happy blend of the sacred and secular in the tradition. So at midnight mass in Mexico then, families pour into churches carrying with them dolls and figurines wrapped in cloth, each one representing the baby Jesus. Many of these are heirlooms passed down through the family, but others are simply plastic baby dolls played by children worldwide. As the congregation grows and midnight approaches, the priest swaps his gold Christmas clothes for a simple woolen shawl. He takes one of the dolls, he wraps it in the shawl and cradles it in his arms. And as he does so, suddenly everyone in the congregation does the same. And they begin to sing traditional Mexican lullabies together, a gentle welcome for the newborn Christ child. The dolls and the figures are given a blessing, and when the families get back to their homes in the early hours of Christmas morning, each treasured baby Jesus is placed in the household's crib scene. They are even assigned godparents who will give them clothes and blankets and toys and sweets. Essentially, they are treated and cherished as though they were a real baby, a welcome new addition to the family, included and cared for, loved and treasured, as if they were one of their own. Our Jesus, our Emmanuel, God with us. As the laws of time and place collapse at midnight tonight, in a symbolic show of love, these Mexican families declare that when it comes to recognizing and welcoming the Christ child, they want to be counted among John's some. The some who know and receive him. The some who are moved by his plight and fragility. The some who are in awe of his love. And the some who know his fate and wish to soothe and comfort the baby as best they can, as they would have done when it first happened. As if this time, when God comes, we will not ignore or reject the hope and love of a tiny child, however crowded and commercial Christmas might be for us. God will not arrive unknown, unwanted, or unrecognised on our watch. And so there it is again. That curious and intriguing Christmas blend of the tangible and the intangible that is the nature of God with us and for us. That mix of the physical and the metaphysical. The significance of God with us. A word made flesh, enacted and celebrated in homes and churches and traditions and folklore. At Christmas, barriers between what is holy and sacred and what is not blur. And perhaps that blurriness might be why the world does not seem to know or receive or recognise the baby in the straw for who he is. But for some, the softer edges of those blurred boundaries allow God the freedom to truly move in and among us, to be our Emmanuel, the Word made flesh. A relational God, tugging at our heartstrings, demanding our love as a baby, permeating our imaginations, our psyche, our folklore from Melrose to Mexico, because he experienced and understood those things in his life too. Just as he inhabited and witnessed and infused all manner of ways that we as human beings create and derive meaning while we try and understand the significance and the reach of faith and salvation. Word made flesh, God as one of us, holy and homely. I love John's writing. I love his grand and cosmic take on the incarnation and the power of his poetry. But when I think about how over the years, the thousands of years since this gospel was given to us, how folk from Mexico to Melrose move with such agility and ease between those blurred boundaries of the physical and the personal and the cosmic, I wonder if perhaps there are now more of the some than John accounted for. More of the some who discover in the tale of angels and shepherds, stars and kings, an invitation to become part of it all. I hope so. I hope that with every Christmas that passes, the sum of the sum grows and more of us encounter the Christ child as he comes right into our daily lives, into our families, our traditions, our homes and our churches, imaginations, our bodies and our hearts, into all the world that Christ so loves and knows so intimately, knows him and loves him too. Amen.